Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompiani. Man, do we have a lot to talk about tonight. Getting ready for Pitt, Penn State next Saturday. What will happen, we'll discuss. Also, the Pirates getting rid of Juan Nicasio for $600,000. Has it come to this? We'll talk about the Pirates situation, but the #1 topic tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown will be the Steelers, who made 4 trades in 6 days, are ready to open up against the Cleveland Browns. And here is your panel, left to right on your television screen. We have Jason Mackey from the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. Hockey season's almost here. You can tell he's smiling about that. In the middle, it's Tim Benz, columnist with the Tribune Review, and to the right from the Associated Press, Mr. Will Graves. So we'll get right into this. Tim Benz, start with you. The Steelers made a lot of moves. They addressed secondary, they addressed tight end, they did a lot of stuff here. Is their secondary, though, better than what it was last year? Is it good enough to do what they want to do this year?
Well, constructing a secondary in the National Football League, it's tough to find but worth the looking for. And I don't know if they're able to do it this time, but they did their best to look for the right components. They're throwing a lot of junk at the wall to see what fits, and they've been doing that since the offseason. And hopefully Joe Hayden's better than junk. You know, hopefully the guy that they picked up from Tampa Bay, the safety today, you could say that about him too. They're just trying to figure out, you can say moving deck chairs around on the Titanic if you wanted to. I do think they upgraded the secondary, but there's so much upgrading to do that I don't know if the secondary is Super Bowl worthy yet. I've got to see, especially from Joe Hayden, that he's still a Pro Bowl caliber player for me to feel that much better about the unit, despite the efforts they've made to improve.
I mean, it sort of reminded me what Ray Shero did in 2013, where, you know, he traded for Aginla and brought in Morrow, and they were all in. And I think that anybody that watched the AFC Championship game last year saw what their problem was. They couldn't cover anybody. They've got guys that they hope can cover guys better than the guys they had, you know, last year. Look, I love Ross Cockrell, good dude. Hayden should be an upgrade if Hayden is healthy. They continue to tinker, and there seems to be the message, if you are not good enough, we are going to find somebody who is. I think they look, and the schedule is such, it's almost like a Penguins type season here for the Steelers. 16 games is the preseason. What's going to happen, what's going to matter is what happens in January. So I think they do have time to build and find chemistry, and I do think it is better, at least right now, on paper than it was last year.
A couple points to make to fill out what those guys were saying. Is Joe Hayden going to be the best cornerback in the NFL? No, I don't know about that, but I think he's going to be a market upgrade over Ross Cockrell, and they needed an upgrade. If that was one thing that I learned from the preseason, it was that Ross Cockrell just wasn't going to cut it. I think Hayden is healthy enough to compete. This is a guy that gutted it out last season with the Cleveland Browns, did everything he could to get on the field. I like it. I like his style. I like what he's going to add into this mix. You have him opposite Artie Burns on the other side. It's good enough, and it was certainly better than it was last season.
While addressing that position, the Steelers certainly don't need all that much on offense, although they brought in Vance McDonald to help them at a position they felt didn't have a clear-cut #1. But, Will, when you look at any other position that they may have left unattended, what would that position be?
I don't want to say unattended, but I thought it was sort of odd that at running back, look, you've got a guy, Le'Veon, who has not played a productive snap of football in 8 months. You got James Conner, a great kid, a great story, but let's remember, has not had trouble staying healthy in the offseason, had a bit of injury problems outside of the cancer at Pitt, and then you got the nightmare as a third-string kid. So I do think that is a sort of, it was a curious decision to only keep those 3 guys. If I was going to pick one spot, that would have been it. But otherwise, I think that they've sort of, look, they've done the best that they can do. And now you just got to kind of see if it works.
Well, 3 positions over the last 2 years, Bob, they've tried, and it just hasn't worked out. Ladarius Green at tight end last year. Now they're trying again with McDonald. They tried with D'Angelo Williams leaving this offseason to fill that with Nile Davis. That didn't work out. We'll see with James Conner, who they spent a 3rd-round pick on. And the other one I'd say is inside linebacker, where they tried to sign Dante Hightower, and he decided to stay with New England. So I don't think you can pin on the Steelers any sort of, well, you overemphasize going after the secondary, so you hurt yourself in the back end here. I don't think a position fits that mold. They've tried in other areas, even before the secondary, just didn't work out at those positions.
I don't worry a ton about running back. I like them having Fitz Toussaint on the practice squad. I think he can fill in if Nightmare doesn't work out or something happens to Le'Veon or Connor. I don't think it'll get to that, but I think they could do that. I'm kind of with Tim on the previous point. The position that worries me is inside linebacker. I love the ones. If you have Vince Williams and Ryan Shazier and they're healthy and they're going to play every snap, great. But if they don't, Tyler Matakevich, I like him, but I don't know if I want him taking 1 reps all season long. And beyond him, who's it going to be? I don't know. I feel like they're a little bit thin inside.
I don't know. The irony here is I remember being on a show with Tim and Pony back in March, and we were discussing Hightower. And I mean, if they end up overspending for Hightower, they don't have the money to go out and get Hayden at this late date. They don't have the money to get McDonald's salary on the books. So, I mean, they are sort of, they weren't all in one pot. They said, okay, it didn't work out here. We're going to go over there. And I'm sort of okay with that. You can't, in this league, it's sort of impossible. You have to sort of pick where your strengths are, and hope that your weaknesses aren't so bad that they end up costing you games. And I think they've done that for the most part. And they should, let's be honest, if the offense is healthy, they should score enough points that if the defense ends up giving up 310 yards passing and 21 points a game, it shouldn't matter.
Yeah, but isn't Dante Hightower a better player than Joe Hayden at this point in their careers? Like,
I mean, I think he's a big-time player, but I don't know if he's for what the Steelers need. I think Hayden could be more impactful than Hightower. I think the drop-off, if Hayden is where he was at, even close to where he was at in 13 and 14, I think the drop-off between but I think the drop-off between him, the gap between him and Cockrell and Sensabaugh is bigger than what Hightower would be over Vince Williams.
I want to ask you guys about your perception of what happened here in this preseason versus what it was before the preseason. When you look at it, Jason, the Steelers are going to be a contender, as I do, and I still think 13 wins is possible with them. But what did you think after watching 4 preseason games? Are you more bullish on them or not?
I was miffed at having to watch 2 more preseason games than I should have had to watch, is what I think about it. It hasn't changed my win total at all. I'm right with you, Pump. 12 wins, 13 wins, I think both are attainable. I see them and New England being the only 2 teams left standing in the East, or in the AFC. I'm used to the hockey talk here, but nothing has changed with me. I still think they're one of the best teams out there, and yeah, the cornerback upgrade is going to be good enough.
I said they'd be 12-4 to start training camp. I'm going to bump that down a game to 11-5 for the season, and I think part of the reason why is, even though I've spent a lot of time already questioning the secondary and the defense, my belief was the defense as a collective unit was going to be better than what it was last year, which is why I felt confident to say they'd be about a game or 2 better, 12-4, 13-3. But it's pretty clear to me, and it's clear to me through their actions of what they did with the secondary and all the moves that they made, that they're not happy with where it is, and they're uncertain about it. So if they're uncertain about it, I feel like I should be too. I still think they got enough weapons on offense to outscore people. So I'll bump my prediction down 1 game. I still say they're 11-5 like last year, though, and win the division.
I think 13-3 has to be the minimum for them. I think they didn't make these moves to win the division and get to the playoffs. They made these moves to beat the Patriots. And to me, the only way they beat the Patriots is you cannot screw around in September and October as they've done in the last couple of years.
Well, I don't know about that. I think they made these moves to beat Scott Tolzien because they had trouble doing that in the preseason. I agree with you. I think you're 100% right that, yes, they did this with the Patriots in mind, but I think they also had this in mind with the other 15 games that they got in the regular season because they were alarmed by what they saw.
I just think they have to look. We can talk about. I think what their record has to be is 13-3 at minimum. And you look at the schedule. If Ben is healthy, if the Bees are all healthy, I think that is the floor for them. I think they could be 15-1. I think that the Patriots game could decide the home field advantage in the playoffs, which is what they need if they're going to beat the Patriots, because they're not going to go up there and win.
That's the way I look at it too. You can't play them in Foxborough. If you play them here, it's a different game, and I think that game is critical. But with all that offense, they should be able to mask any problems they have on defense. Steelers certainly all in. Want to win a Super Bowl. Pirates are sending a different message. When we come back, we're going to talk about what they're doing or not doing. That's next on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Don't go away. Pirate Talk is next. The #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran. Go one better. And by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.